14th, 2019 minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Our next item is a 2020 board officers.
So I have a little, I've prepared a little sheet that you have in front of you that sort of goes through our tasks for this nominating committee meeting.
That's all right.
Just a reminder of the process that we go through is that all of the board members email, fill out a form that Rachel collects and expresses their interest in being an officer of PSTA, being on the executive committee of PSTA, or being on any of the other committees of PSTA. After we vote on the officers, then we'll go through the committees, which is also at your places with the vacancies, at least that we know now, listed there. So it's up to you. We could hold off on the chair until Joe gets here, or, well, since they're not. So we got,
Yay!
there he is, right on time.
Sorry, everybody.
I guess I'll just conclude with my opening remarks by just saying every single person that you see on here, the recommendations or the names indicated on their survey that they would be interested in serving in that position. So
Did I say I wanted to be vice chair?
I thought you said that to me. You were okay with that?
I think you were imagining that.
That you were.
Maybe I was saying,
I mean,
if I have to,
under duress.
under duress, as long as Joe doesn't go anywhere. I guess, but yeah. I'm not gonna do Janet. Did you take the chair when you were chair? No.
I would just maybe one other.
I know, right?
Just one other comment. And I know we've talked about this at the nominating committee before, but I do think, at least in my 8 years of being here at PSTA, that the executive committee, the makeup of the executive committee is very important to how the PSTA board operates. And I do think it is very important to always have at least one county commissioner. Of the 15 members of PSTA, there's 4 county commissioners, and so to have one at least on the executive committee. I also think that it's important then to also probably have at least one of the 2 representatives from the city of St. Petersburg, where we have most of our service, most of our ridership is in that city. So I was very happy when Councilwoman Driscoll volunteered to be on the committee, because as past chair, Commissioner Rice will roll off the committee, so that would keep a St. Petersburg person, and grateful to both Commissioner Long, and Commissioner Gerard for being from Pinellas County Commissioners that will be willing to serve on the committee. And then certainly Commissioner Barkley has served for a very long time and has served for a long time as chair of the Finance Committee. So a lot of experience on that. So for a non-St. Pete County city member, he's got quite a bit of experience, I would say. Dan Saraki doesn't have too much experience, but he immediately jumped up and he has energy. He wants to serve on this. I think he is in a unique position because the northern towns share one board member. Safety Harbor, Tarpon Springs, and Oldsmar rotate their membership. They also do that on the MPO. the same way. But he just, it just worked out for him because he is completing the term of Tarpon Springs because David Banther became term limited off of Tarpon Springs City Council, so he couldn't serve. Tarpon Springs did not identify a commissioner that wanted to drive down here, so they deferred to Safety Harbor, who also deferred to Oldsmar, and then Dan eagerly raised his hand wanting to do it. So he is essentially serving in the others, representing the other cities ahead of his time. So he has the potential, even, he would be the 5th member on the executive committee, but he has the potential to, succeed up the, through the executive committee if he so chooses, so interested in doing that. Unlike in the past, there's never been a northern town chair of PSDA because they only usually had served for 2 years before. So this is kind of an interesting opportunity for him. That concludes my remarks.
Okay. All right. So I came in a couple minutes late, so you already called order, you already had public comment?
Right, and
Yeah,
minutes.
we're on 3B, Chair.
Okay, all right. So, we have 3 interest to serve forms completed. We have some staff recommendations, which Brad just talked about, and we have the attendance records, which we have in front of us, I guess. It was, maybe it was sent out.
It's in the, it
I-
should be in
'cause
the, okay.
Yeah,
It's in the packet.
yeah.
Where should it be?
All right, so,
Do you see it? No.
It's, Rachel,
It's called Board Attendance 2019. It's right underneath 3B 2020 Board Officers. If you click on it, it should open up.
Oh.
mhm.
I guess I
Okay.
open up my iPad.
Okay. So, is there any discussion?
I have a question. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if Commissioner Gerard, I just heard you express a little bit of
Just that I'm gonna
apprehension.
be-
I think you'd be awesome, and I hope you will be a future PSTA chair as well.
Just don't want it to get into it in the next year, so you
Mhm.
better not go anywhere.
No,
She
I'm
did.
planning not to be
Maybe
going
extra
So what is
anywhere.
it?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be commission chair next year.
Right.
Yeah,
So what does it mean that you may be term limited after 2020 on PSTA?
Yes, because I started in 2012. I started when we had a election that took the person who I replaced and put her up in Tallahassee. So therefore, I came in early, yeah. I wasn't naming names, but, yeah. But anyway, so I took over that spot because, again, I represent 6 small cities.
Right.
And my role is to make sure that they're well represented on the, all the different boards. And so therefore, I filled the end of her previous position,
Where did she
and then
say
I've
the
continued to be
attendance
reelected
Your
each
board.
time.
Yeah, there.
All right, so I've been on since 2012. All right? And I'll just state for the record that I am willing and able to serve as chair if so nominated.
Well, so Brad, what does this mean? That you're, so, you said we have 5 people on the executive committee?
yeah, but Patty Johnson was on it, and she is no longer with us, so
Right.
now there's just the 4 of us, right? large.
Patty Johnson was the 5th member of the nominating committee. That's why there's just the 4 of you.
Right.
Mhm.
What I'm talking about, the
In
executive
addition, she
committee.
was also on the executive committee. And so she no longer
Four of us
fills
right now.
that slot.
Oh, okay, because
Yeah.
she's not on there, but there's supposed to be
Yeah.
5.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think it's a great idea, actually, to have the past chair
Mhm.
on there as a rule if we can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
concur.
that works. Does that work for you?
Yeah, we can switch.
Yeah.
Is that all right with you, Joe?
Say it again, please.
I said, we'll just switch.
Oh, you and me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Well,
fine.
because she doesn't want to be vice chair
Okay,
next
Pat doesn't want to
year
be chair.
because-
Well, I'm okay with being vice chair next
Yeah,
year.
you would be,
Okay,
Yeah.
you would
And
be.
you're gonna be the
You'd be
emeritus.
chair emeritus,
okay,
so you're okay anyway.
Yeah.
You're automatically on.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, I was just trying to make sure we didn't put them
Yeah.
No, I'm cool. Okay.
Yeah. Okay? All right, any other
Split in the middle of
questions?
the year if I have to.
And I wrote the words may be term limited after 2020.
Yeah.
And even for Commissioner Long and Commissioner Gerard and everybody, because the PSTA state statute says you are a commissioner until replaced.
Oh,
So in case of Commissioner Barkley, if nobody else, kind of like Dan Saraki, if nobody else wants to replace him, he can continue to serve.
Mhm.
Anybody can, and that is the case for anybody.
okay.
Um,
So and with us, we appoint people anyway, so.
Anyway.
So that doesn't even work.
The county is a little bit different, you're right, because
Yeah.
even though the PSTA statute calls for 3-year terms, three-year terms, the county makes appointments each year.
That's true.
So you have that.
All right. Well, I'd like to nominate Joe Barkley for chair next year.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to nominate Pat Gerard as vice chair.
Second? Second.
All-
Third.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right. And
Do we need to nominate Janet as chair emeritus?
that's good.
No, I
That's
just wanted to
automatic, right?
Automatic.
That's automatic.
Radar.
That's automatic,
I
right?
always wanted to be an emeritus something.
Yeah. All right,
Oh, you will.
okay. And,
I know, I'm already emeritus for anything. Okay,
all right,
and nominate Gina Driscoll as secretary treasurer.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of that.
And nominate Dan Saraki as at-large
Excuse me.
member, or whatever you call it.
Second?
For the executive committee.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
You can't.
Okay.
Can you?
We zipped right through that. huh?
Okay.
Okay, now, explain 5, if you would, Brad, please.
Okay, so if you look at this sheet that you have in front of you, that outlines the members of all different committees. And then at the bottom, there's some yellow X's that show vacancies on the different committees. We have a vacancy in the planning committee. We have a alternate vacancy on the legislative committee, a vacancy on the executive committee, which has just been filled, and a vacancy in the nominating committee.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna have a vacancy on finance, because Dave Eggers isn't on finance anymore.
I just learned that, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
So I would like to,
did he drop off finance, or he just dropped off?
he's not on the board.
Well, he will,
By virtue of him not being on the PSA board, then we will have a vacancy.
but he still
On,
has to serve December.
Starting in January, we'll have a vacancy on the finance
Right.
committee.
So can we
I'm gonna
just
make him come to one
nominate
more
Commissioner
meeting.
Welch? Since he's so.
Well, I
good at
did meet with him
finance.
this morning, but I was too nervous to I didn't want to upset anything, to tell him that he had to come to a committee meeting that he hadn't agreed to yet.
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna
that's
say,
okay.
do we know if he wants to do that again?
Well, he was
He's
just
so
appointed
good.
this
He's so
week.
good at it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he said he'd be willing to serve again.
On PSDA.
Yeah, but he'll do whatever we ask him.
Who's Buddy Vince?
It's gonna be a
Cox is on
pretty
there.
big year in terms of
Yeah,
finance.
it is. I'm sure he would like to be on
Mhm.
finance.
We don't need to have any screw-ups.
Well, we do have an alternate, Dan Saraki, who has been attending most of the finance committee.
Oh, okay.
So I figured it was okay to, and we never, Commissioner Barkley, as the chair of that committee, can attest, we have not had a problem with a quorum.
No.
We've had really good attendance.
Well, you can ask him what he wants to be on when he gets here then.
Well, we
Yeah.
could we make Dan a regular member and nominate Ken as an alternate? Or does he need to be on because he's on the county commission?
I don't know.
Well, I think it would be, considering where we're going with our transportation discussions and how
Right.
important it is to PSTA, I think it would be wise to have him on finance, because then he can speak to the dollars.
I agree.
That are
I
needed.
think he would be great on any committee.
Right. Right.
But your county commission has not actually voted on this yet, right?
You know, well, we don't really vote on it.
Yes, we
Just-
have to decide.
you-
whether
would you
or not
just sort
to
of
put it on the
volunteer?
ballot.
How do you
No,
handle
no,
it?
I
How do you
mean-
handle it?
The chair appoints people
Oh,
and
Yeah.
threatens them and,
okay.
yeah, passes out favors and such, yeah, right?
It's the
Well,
most fun we have all year.
It would be of the will to make any recommendations you so desire to the board.
And everybody's sucking up to this one right now,
Yeah, you
so
should've
might as
heard- you
well
should've
make
heard
hay while
Charlie
the
the
sun
other
is
day.
shining,
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
right?
blowing smoke up in
It just, all the other committee members, all the other folks have well, at least not said no. And
But I think
Commissioner
you're
Welch has
right.
not
I
been
think-
even asked.
Do you want
Yeah.
somebody else to ask him? Or are you, call him up and ask him, he's on there.
I'll ask
He's on
him,
here.
I'll ask
Yeah.
him. I mean, we'll
Want
have
me to call him up?
we'll have a vacancy on planning.
I'll step up to
Okay.
planning.
Oh,
Is it alternate or regular? I can't quite.
Well,
Next year, good. So I stepped off planning.
so one thing that we have had this
Yeah.
discussions before,
That's true.
which is on your iPad, the attendance.
Mhm.
Yes.
If you'll notice, there's one board member that has
Can we?
not attended. And I don't believe that board member has attended any of the planning committee meetings, maybe one,
Who's not?
as an alternate. Do you keep attendance at the committees?
Well, is she on there?
Yeah, she's the
Oh,
alternate.
she's the alternate, yeah.
7 of the 10 meetings thus far in 2019.
I know. Of the
Okay,
board
and,
meetings.
and,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 missed planning committee meetings in the past
7 missed board meetings.
year.
Out of how many?
But if you're the alternate, do you have to be there?
11.
11
Is
committees?
it
No.
October?
She's only an
Oh,
alternate on one
since
committee.
the beginning of the year.
We took her off all the committees last year.
Yeah.
We just take her off the
We-
board, for God's sake.
and you talked to Woody, right?
We've talked to the mayor.
March,
and,
April, May, June, July, August, and October was missed.
we sent this attendance information to the city manager.
I mean, I see him every
Uh,
month, so it's meeting, but
And the city manager is
You
gonna.
might have more clout.
Should talk to him, Pat, from a
Okay.
mayor to a mayor. I
All right.
mean, it's not right.
No, it's not right.
And you know, it
They are
doesn't give,
underrepresented.
it doesn't give Largo
They are
any-
unrepresented on PSTA.
any representation on any transit issue.
Yeah.
And they have people that are willing to serve. Or at least one.
So, to answer Commissioner Rice's question, I would recommend that Commissioner Rice serve as a full
Yes.
member of the
I
planning.
would like to nominate Commissioner Rice to be a full member on the planning
Yes.
committee.
Second.
Done.
I like the planning committee. I like the planning committee.
For the legislative committee,
Can I interrupt you a second? Do you know anything about
Yeah, I'll
Keith
have that.
Sapiel, what his preferences are or anything?
well, no, he did not respond to
Who is
the
he?
questionnaire.
He's the guy from the North County.
No, from,
Pinellas.
Pinellas
He
Park.
replaced Patty.
Oh,
Is he a counselor?
Yeah, he's a commissioner in Pinellas Park.
there's a new one, right?
Oh, he must be new, I don't think I know.
Yeah, he was at the last meeting.
I believe he's attended 2 PSDA board meetings, or maybe one of them was the budget hearing. He's missed one.
He was there July
It started in July.
Yeah. But he hasn't expressed any interest in anything in particular?
No.
Maybe we ought to-
Not yet, he's brand new. I mean, I talked to him about all the different committees.
Well, was he kind of forced into joining, or did he want to be on this, be on the PSC board?
I would say halfway in between. I don't think he's opposed to being on the board. He didn't do it like under gunpoint or anything.
No, I don't mean that, but I
He did
mean,
it
you know.
willingly.
But I mean, you know, we need somebody that's interested, enthusiastic.
Well, I think it takes a little while. I don't know. I know that you were very enthusiastic on your very first meeting.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of people need to be asked, so, I mean,
Yeah.
we asked them to be on something.
Well, let's see. So what vacancies will we have? We'll have, well, if you take my recommendation of Dan Saraki becoming a member, no, let's see. The recommendation is for Dan Saraki to become an alternate on the legislative committee, is there?
He would be an alternate, yeah.
All we need is an alternate on the legislative committee, yeah.
Okay.
That would be the instructive recommendation, and then Richard Bennett request would be on this committee.
On which committee? Legislative?
Nominating.
Nominating? Okay.
It's not really a heavy lift because.
You can have my seat.
twice a year.
Well,
Every little bit helps.
Yeah. Richard's, is on the finance committee. He's a former Chrysler executive, and he knows a lot. And he just, he was coming off a serious physical condition, and he's gotten more and more active over the last, what would you say, 6 months or so, Brad?
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say he's definitely
Yeah.
gaining his knowledge.
Yeah.
Came to Tallahassee with us.
Yeah. Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, really, this is the first year that he has felt comfortable. I mean, even putting out a request to be on any of the committees.
Mhm.
He was kind of forced to be on the
Yeah.
finance committee, I think, but he's getting into it.
Okay.
I'll reach out to Mr. Sabil, and we have available alternates on, we'll have available alternates on most committees available. I don't know if the nominating committee needs an
No,
alternate.
we won't have it. The only
We'll have a planning committee.
vacancy we will have is
Oh.
the expected one on finance in January. Everything else will be filled if you.
Oh,
if they-
that's right.
Yeah.
So what did we decide to do about that?
Well, were you serious about you wanting to, would you give up potentially, if he's interested,
Is
the
nominating supposed to
nominating
be the three
committee?
officers,
sure.
though?
assignment?
Well, let me just check and make sure that, isn't it the three officers
No.
That's
and two
personnel.
others?
That's the personnel committee.
No.
I think the nominating committee is wide open.
Okay.
Were you planning for me to stay on the nominating committee?
Yes, right,
Okay.
Rachel? Yeah.
Okay.
if we could find out about Mr. Sabiel, is that how you pronounce his name? Sable?
Sibiel?
Sabil?
Sabiel? How's it
I
pronounced?
think it's Sibiel.
Okay. Yeah, he should be on something.
Yeah.
And if we could talk to Woody about possibly another member of the Largo board, that would be beneficial. Agreed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gee, I really like that.
Who?
Yeah, yeah, good idea. You have to live in a certain area.
Samantha, no,
Okay.
she got reelected on.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, it's just because nobody ran against it. If they would have huge.
Yeah.
Right.
Does she go to the city council meetings?
I guess, I don't know.
Eric will be good.
I know, it'd be great.
Talk to him.
Who would? My hubby.
Wants to run for Largo City.
You should have run it.
That's what I said.
Still waiting for
I will.
Okay.
Legislative.
No,
Have
he's
we-
back on
have we-
Chair,
have we-
I think
have we-
we're-
Have we
Anyway,
covered all
Chair, are we
the
adjourned?
topics
Are we
here?
televised?
Yes.
or-
Do you have anything written down?
We still need a motion
Oh,
For whom?
to nominate Dan on legislative and Richard Bennett on nominating.
Okay.
moved.
Second.
Done.
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you.
No
We're
way
easy-
they can.
We're easy.
Yeah. We
Awesome.
locked them in when they weren't here to represent themselves, right? All right.
We good?
So is there any other things that we need to cover?
No.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned, and again, I apologize for being a few minutes late. I think the winter people are starting to come down.
Okay.
Is everybody
Chilly
here?
weather
Will
with
be
them.
on the executive?
Everybody is here.
Yeah.
Is it,
We could just
The
do-
executive committee,
Do we have,
is there anybody else coming?
we don't have to wait.
no? There's nobody else on the executive committee that,
Just give
Somebody-
us 5 minutes so I can switch around the paperwork if they would take.
Oh, Jean.
And Darden, you
Darden
have to
needs to
leave,
leave.
right?
I do, I could be a few minutes late, but my